Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the DaVon Lewis Show podcast, where I bring the latest news and updates from the world of sports and to name it. In today's video, I'll be having an AEW Dynamite review from March 12, 2025, which will showcase on TBS Network and simulcasting on the Max streaming service. Plus, I have the latest rumors and news from Fightful Select that two major championships within AEW could be merging and much more. As it all goes down on this channel, I appreciate you guys coming in through. Let's talk professional wrestling, and let's get into the show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's kick things off with the rumors of AEW having a fewer championships in the promotion, which could be true rather than later. According to Fightful Select, AEW sources claim that the AEW International Championship and the Continental Championship could be merging in some kind of capacity. Fightful reported that the pitch to combine Kenny Omega's International Championship, where he won from Konosuke Takeshi at Revolution, and Kazuchika Okada's Continental Championship was brought up a number of months ago. The outlet also reported that many in the company considered it to be a firm creative plan, and it wasn't immediately known who would be carrying the combined championships or the titles will be carried together or rebranded. But also, Fightful reported that they have not heard if Okada versus Omega is part of the plan, but if it is, I'll be interested to see that match. More importantly, talking about Okada, he successfully defended his Continental Championship for the 11th time against Brody King at Revolution, as it's the writing on the wall for creative plans for Okada moving forward into AEW Dynasty in April. As things continue to not be clear, AEW President Tony Khan announced that the AEW International Eliminator tournament on Tuesday, beginning with AEW Dynamite, going into Wednesday. And the winner will go on to face Kenny Omega at the pay-per-view. But let's go ahead and dive in and talk about AEW Dynamite for this week's episode, Wednesday episode, which just aired a couple of days ago. Appreciate you guys coming through. We kick things off with Kenny Omega coming out to showcase everything, recapping his comeback, more importantly, his excitement to the AEW International Championship. He thanked the fans for believing in him, and he thanked Takeshi for pushing him to his limits. He put over the upcoming tournament and says that he is excited for what's next as he's leaving. The Ops enter, and Shibata has a stare down with no other than Kenny Omega. From the looks of it, it's going to be interesting seeing Shibata versus Kenny Omega, but more importantly, if the other Ops members are going to be looking to get a match against Kenny Omega as well. I'll be intrigued to see how things may unfold, but if I get Samoa Joe versus Kenny Omega, sign me up, and I will be there live to see that actual match. Now let's get to the action for Trios action. We have Trios action on the way as the Ops members of Samoa Joe, Hook, and Kashiri Shibata defeated Elliot Theus, Vinny Perfeccio, and Gabriel Arios in Trios action. It was smash mouth straightforward. They handled business. They took care of business, and they were able to secure the victory, and it was a good match. Then we get to Ricochet. He cuts a promo on Shibata, and they are fighting this following Saturday at AEW Collision. Then we get to a highlighted package covering AEW Revolution, and that it was announced that Jon Moxley will be defending the AEW World Title against Cope for the second time. This time, it will be a strict fight this following week coming up, with the winner facing Swerve Strickland at AEW Dynasty. Then they would go to the backstage exclusive from after the pay-per-view, where Cope confronts Strickland, and after the whole commercial break, and Moxley cuts a promo about the whole entire situation. Of course, Revolution was a standout pay-per-view. More importantly, it kept me highly invested with everything that took place, and I enjoyed the onslaught and more importantly, all the matches that took place. But more importantly, with the storylines going right now, Swerve Strickland is the big man, the number one guy who will be taking the reins from Moxley, and more importantly, probably be our number one guy to be the next AEW World Champion, heading towards All In Texas. Then we get to some tag team action. Powerhouse Hobbs, along with Hologram, and their valet, Harley Cameron, or should we call her Harley Graham. She was there with tag team action as they defeated Brian Cage and Dralistico, which was a very confusing tag team. But more importantly, it was a great mess up when it came to those two. But more importantly, the Powerhouse and Hologram was able to defeat the Powerhouse of the Cage and the Rage and Dralistico. Then we get to last Sunday as Alicia 2 interviewed the Hurt Syndicate. MVP gives an update on Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, said they weren't going to be in the house for Dynamite. And he tells everyone to enjoy themselves. And he's going to take care of business on AEW Dynamite. Of course, what was going to happen? You had to stay tuned. Then we get to Toni Storm, who cuts a promo, and she threw out a challenge to all the women in AEW. As I quote, she said, "Ladies, put your keys in the bowl and let's get the orgy started." Before things really broke down, we had the Powerhouse. Megan Bain decided to attack her from behind, leading into the commercial break. The feud is going to be interesting at Dynasty, as it looks like it's going to be signed, sealed, and delivered to have Megan Bain versus Timeless Toni Storm, and those ladies are going to put on a clinic. But I feel for Toni. She got F5 directly right there on the stage area. She felt that, being battered and bruised, and she's going to lick her wounds to come back strong when it comes to this tough challenger. Then we get to the first AEW International Title Eliminator tournament match, as we had Speedball Mike Bailey making his debut, and he defeated the Beast Mortos. After a whole lot of back and forth and more importantly, great transitions, I enjoyed the match fairly much. And what more can we get out of Speedball? Everything. If you're not familiar with Speedball, I highly recommend for you guys to check out his highlight reel from his Indies days, including TNA Wrestling, where he captured the X Division Championship. Then we cut to Christian Cage, who's cutting a promo backstage with a whole lot of tensions after everything that had took place at Revolution, with a failed cash in on his contract. But he had a lot to say, as I quote, he says he's still going to be the next AEW World Champion. He goes on to explain that he wants a singles world title match against Cope. More importantly, Nick Wayne calls him out for his excuses and his failures. But of course, Christian ends up shoving Nick Wayne, and Mother Wayne steps in. But of course, Christian mouths off to her and let her know to put her back in her place, and said he will send her back to the Waffle House. He tells Nick Wayne to keep riding his coattails because he's going to be the next champion. So we got to see the tensions continue to be pushed when it comes to Christian Cage and Nick Wayne. Look like the patriarchy's having a little bit of shaking in the cage when it comes to everything that's going on with the stable. The question is, are they going to be breaking up? I would not be surprised. But Christian continues to step up in the best way he always know how when it comes to his deliverance, and more importantly, keep us highly invested when it comes to AEW's programming as being a true heel. And then we get to Maxwell Jacob Freeman. He is shown after his match on Sunday punching a mirror, and he comes out to cut our live promo. He says he's not mad about the loss anymore, and MVP cuts him off and confronts him. They embrace with a hug. Then MVP tells him a story about Max wanting to learn from him when he was younger. MVP then goes on and says that there is no way that Max can be happy about what happened to him on Sunday, and he offers him a Hurt Syndicate card. Of course, Max ends up declining, says he doesn't need any help or advice, and he mentions being the AEW World Champion for 406 days. MVP tells him that he focused on the word was, and he offers Max the card a second time, and Max take it as they cut towards the next following segment, which ends up being Platinum Max Caster, who's out for another open challenge. But this time, he got somebody that he never expected to get. He got Korneshka Takeshi to answer the bell. Kenshin tries to weasel his way out of the match and says Kenshin must be there to offer him a spot in the Don Callis family. Then he goes on to tease Takeshi about not being able to defeat Kenny Omega. But then Takeshi handles business with a solid punch, and he physically put the beat down, leading towards a match with Max Caster. But when it comes to the overall, the match, Takeshi took care of business and was able to send Max Caster packing and was able to secure the victory. But of course, later in the night, they show the video of Max Caster leaving the building crying and moping and going through his own hardship problems. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Max Caster. Then we get to a Chris Jericho vignette. He's holding the gravity mask that he stole on Sunday after ripping it off. And he is challenging Bandito to find out who will he do now that he embarrassed him in front of his whole entire family. But the storyline's getting stale on the Ring of Honor side, but we got to be intrigued and stay focused and see the Bandito versus Chris Jericho. Bandito's a great talent, but hopefully he does not botch when it comes to certain moves and concuss himself. More importantly, Jericho knows how to keep the test of time with every single character he has persona into. I know the fans want him to retire, to please go away, or not liking his persona. But he talked in an interview and he expressed it like he knows what he's doing. He's getting the heat, and he always knows where to position himself at the right moment. Then we get to singles women's action as we have Willow Nightingale defeated Penelope Ford, which was a great match. I enjoyed the presentation of those ladies put on the clinic. But where things got interesting was Penelope attacked Nightingale with a chair after the match. Chris Statlander came down to make the save. However, Nightingale wasn't completely apprehensive about the whole situation, even though she didn't trust her from the past. But they were both attacked by Megan Bayne. And so most likely they got to come to a common ground. My enemy is your enemy, but together we got another enemy. And they got to work together to balance it out to see how things run smoothly. Then we get to Renee Paquette. She interviews Mercedes Moné with Billy Starks, and they agreed to a match next week. It's going to be intriguing, but Billy Starks can go. But thank gosh she's now getting a push when it comes to AEW. But Mercedes full belts continue to hold the test of time, doing her thing. If she's overrated, from my own personal opinion, at some points she does feel like that she's overrated, but she don't need all those belts to accolade her greatness. Just hold on to the TBS Championship and a New Japan, and you should be all good. But more importantly, when it comes to everything else that has been going on in the women's division, Mercedes has been put on a clinic of great matches. I feel like her strongest match she had was against Momo, but her greatest accolade match was against Chris Statlander when it came to being a part of the AEW roster. We're coming up on 1 year of Mercedes Moné being a part of AEW. I'm pretty sure they're going to come out with a whole balloon celebration and champagne, and she's going to have her real big test with whoever comes to AEW. Most likely it will be Indy Hartwell or someone who has had not had an opportunity, or someone who's coming back from the injured list. We have so many talent that could be available but not being used, include Jamie Hayter. We also have Saraya, and we have other talent that's there that's just not being used currently at the moment. We're still waiting on to see what's going on with Dr. DMD Bit Breaker. She's been missing for a good little minute. I know Tony likes to recycle and bring this talent from here and there for certain periods, and then give them a break to kind of just kick back and work on their own promotional stuff behind the scenes. Then we get to Will Ospreay, who was interviewed in a ring by Tony Schiavone. He thanks the fans for supporting him on Sunday and says that the next time he faces Kyle Fletcher, he hopes he will still come out on top, and he wants to challenge for the AEW World Championship at AEW All In Texas. And as such, to get there, he's going to enter into the Owen Hart Foundational Men's Memorial Cup Tournament. The tournament's going to stack up, and we're going to have another tournament. But hopefully Will Ospreay gets that far, and he'll be able to showcase himself of being a true aerial assassin for AEW. Then we get to Renee Paquette. She interviews Jay White. He says that he didn't hit Adam Copeland on purpose, but this past Sunday, he says he's rooting for Adam next week, and he wants to talk with Swerve about his top contendership. What can that mean? Those two are probably going to have gold blows, but you got to be careful messing with Swerve because he's the most dangerous man currently in the company, and he's hungry to get back on top to be the world champion. But when it comes to Jay White, he's great too in his own right. When it comes to him having a great lineage of being a true heel when he was in New Japan, he truly can go. You just got to give him the ball, and he'll run with it and turn it into something great. Then we get to Hangman Adam Page, who confronts MJF. Hangman says that he can see Max slipping. Max says he will go on to become a multi-time champion in AEW. And more importantly, while Page comes up short while he says he's chasing the big one again, but they have a brace moment of just respect and they part ways. Now it's time for the big one for the main event. It was for the AEW International Title Eliminator Tournament. We had Orange Cassidy defeating the likes of Hechicero. The match was good for what it was. A lot of back and forth, a great arsenal of high-risk moves. Orange Cassidy held his own to advance. And the field is stacking up when it comes to the semifinals. And we got other matches coming towards Collision. And we're going to get some great talent who's going to be towards the semifinals. And I look forward to seeing the finals as well. But there you guys have it for the current edition for AEW Dynamite for this following week. I appreciate you guys coming through. More importantly, let's chop it up in the comments. Let me know what was your favorite match of the show. How excited were you for Speedball Mike Bailey for his debut? Go ahead and chop it down in the comments, and we'll talk professional wrestling. More importantly, if you made it down to the end of this video, you're a true one. Make sure you smash the like button for the algorithm, click the red button and subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss a new video when it comes to updates for this actual channel. For all my other platforms, click the heart and like button and subscribe to my Facebook, Twitch, as well as my Instagram. I appreciate you guys coming through. If you love professional wrestling, come on through and join the family. Thank you for watching the DaVon Lewis Show, as I'm your host for the podcast. Until the next episode, I'll catch you guys later. You guys be safe.